3 months ago, I updated to the M4 iPad Pro with Nano Texture display, which means that I spent over $2,000 on this iPad. And for that price, I got a beefier M4 chip, I got double the RAM, 16 gigabytes, and I got 1 terabyte of internal storage. And then of course, for that little bit of extra money, I also got that Nano Texture display. Now, if you've seen my channel before, you know I use my iPad Pro for all my computer needs. It's the only computer I have for everything that I do. And I do a lot. I use my iPad Pro for my nighttime teaching job. I use it for project management during the day. And of course, I just use it for personal stuff like reading books or consuming shows, all those normal iPad things. And somehow on all my videos, somebody always mentions that, hey, for $2,000, you should just get a Mac. So I think it's time to try to answer this mind-boggling question of why anybody would spend $2,000 on an iPad and not just get a Mac. Hey everyone, Tech Dad here, and a lot of people don't really understand why some folks want to buy these high-end iPad Pros. They look at the specs you're getting, like a lower amount of RAM compared to, say, a MacBook Pro and a lower-end M4 chip. They look at the operating system of iPad OS, which, by the way, is getting a lot of huge upgrades soon. But most folks say, it's still not up to par with Mac OS. But the honest truth for me is the iPad Pro was the right device for me because it can do everything I need, and the Mac can't. So in this video, I want to give you a review of this high-end iPad. I want to talk about why it meets what I need out of a device, as opposed to a Mac, which just unfortunately doesn't. And I want to talk about the high price tag and whether or not it's really justified for the features that you're paying for, such as Nano Texture display. Are you really getting your money's worth out of an iPad like this? All right, let's get into it. Okay, so when I bought this iPad Pro, I bought it mainly because I needed a tablet. I needed the tablet functionality. I needed the ability to write on my device by hand. So when people say to me, well, why didn't you just get a Mac? Well, because I needed a tablet. And the main reason that I need that tablet functionality is for my teaching position. I need to be able to write out math problems by hand. That to me is still the easiest way to teach math. It's how all the students are trying to complete their math problems. They're trying to write out their math by hand. Yes, there is some softwares on Mac that you can get to show formulas and things like that, but it's still so much easier just to pull up a whiteboard app like Notability and just display how you work out the math problem. For example, fractions are so much easier to write by hand, but they're awful to use on a computer. I just can't stand doing fractions work on a computer or trying to show students how to add fractions. I really like the iPad because of Apple Intelligence. You can just quickly whip up an illustration, such as a pizza, when you want to talk about adding fractions. You can draw on top of that pizza. You just have the freedom of writing on a piece of paper, except that it's digital and I can cast it up on the board with a projector. It's also easy to demonstrate more complex problems like solving quadratic equations, for example. When you need to crunch a lot of math, it's just nice to have the iPad and be able to write. And with the calculator app, you can actually use Math Notes and write a really complex problem out, and Math Notes will solve it for you. My students really like that. So I didn't get a Mac because it can't do what a tablet can do. The iPad has the ability to have the Apple Pencil Pro. It gives me the ability to write by hand. It lets me bring in AI. It lets me bring in a digital calculator that you can write on. I mean, the Mac just doesn't do any of that. In addition, just being able to write on my iPad, it has the tablet form factor. So I find myself going from student to student around the classroom. If I need to show a specific student how to do something, I can go right up to their desk with my tablet, lay it on their desk, and crunch the math out. I mean, that's just the kind of freedom and form factor that I need for my job, and a Mac just can't do that. Well, then a lot of people say on my channel, well, Tech Dad, why don't you just buy a MacBook Air for your project management job and then just buy a cheap iPad for your teaching job? Well, that brings me to the next reason why I bought this iPad Pro. I just want one device. I want all my stuff on one thing, and I don't want to have to carry around multiple devices. I don't want a laptop and a tablet. I don't want my files split across those. And so I wanted a device that has enough computer capability to get my project management work done. And the iPad Pro does it. It has the apps I need. It has the Microsoft Suite on it, which I can use easily. You have access to the Google Suite. You have access to Smartsheet. The Safari browser's come a long way. You can actually run those apps in the browser. In addition, Apple has finally come out with really good quality quality keyboards and trackpads for their iPads, and so I love the newest M4 iPad Pro Magic Keyboard. It's absolutely fantastic, feels like a Mac experience. It's made of aluminum, has a good typing experience, the trackpad's full size, supports all the gestures. So now you can turn your tablet into a 2-in-1 computer. I really love that. And some people can't. Maybe they don't have the software that they need on the iPad, but I do, so it works for me. Okay, so that's why I chose the iPad Pro over a Mac. I needed something that I could write on. I wanted something that could do everything in one device. I didn't want to have to buy two. But then you may ask, okay, but is this iPad Pro worth $2,000? Well, let's talk about that and some of the features that you actually get for that price point. So first of all, you have Nano Texture display, which I really love. It's absolutely amazing when it's clean. And the crazy thing about Nano Texture that I've learned is it's hard to keep it clean. So the Nano Texture display is designed to be really anti-glare, so it's not supposed to reflect back light, and it's awesome at that. And that's really great for a guy who does YouTube videos about iPads. So when you record it, you're not getting a lot of glare. It's also great when you're sitting outside. You don't get any glare if you're consuming a show out in the sunlight. That's really nice. But you do get glare off of the oil that's on the screen. So if your screen's all smudgy or dirty and you're out in the sunlight, I often get glare back from the oil that's all over the screen. And it's really hard to clean. You can't clean it with a normal microfiber cloth. You have to clean it with the cloth that it came with. And so as long as you have this guy handy in your backpack or something, you can clean the screen off and get rid of all that oil. And so that's one trade-off of this Nano Texture display. It is tough to keep clean, but if you keep it clean, it's absolutely amazing for keeping the glare down. It also gives the iPad a matte-like finish, and so I do notice a little bit better of a writing experience. So if you're gonna write on your iPad, the Nano Texture display is actually pretty nice. It just feels a little bit more like paper, and it's not so slippery. Now, is it worth the price? Well, first of all, you can't even get the Nano Texture display unless you get the 1 or 2 terabyte models of the iPad, so you're already getting up into the high-end price ranges by doing that. And so the Nano Texture display is an extra $100 on top of that. I think it's worth $100, but I think Apple should offer it on the lower-end iPad Pros at least, so they don't force you to spend a ton of money just to get that feature if you want it. Now, the other features, such as the higher RAM, are actually really nice, but I don't think it's enough for the money that you're paying. I really would like to see in the M5 iPad Pros that hopefully they release this fall that we get at least 24 or 32 gigs of RAM. And you might say, well, Tech Dad, when are you using that much RAM on your iPad Pro? Well, when I edit video. So if I'm editing a lot of 4K video for this channel, I do it all on my iPad, and 16 gigs of RAM still makes it run a little clunky. I'd really like to see more RAM so it's very smooth to render and export this video content. I also think we should get a bump in the M chip that we receive. So in this one, you get a little bit of a bump, a little bit more cores for paying the higher price, but not a whole lot. I think they should give us the M4 Pro version like they get in the MacBook Pro around this price point. I think that'd be fair. A more powerful processor, again, would help with video editing. And anybody who does artwork with Apple Pencil Pro or works with Procreate or other professional apps for artistry is going to benefit from that. Now, I do love the terabyte of internal storage that I get because, like I said, I do edit a lot of video, and so it's nice to have all those projects stored internally on the iPad. But I don't need that kind of storage for my teaching job or for my project management position. So with project management, they supply cloud storage from work, and so I store all my files there. Not that they're that big anyway, they're just a bunch of Word docs, PowerPoints, Excel spreadsheets, and things like that. So you really don't need that much storage unless you're doing a lot of video editing. Okay, so conclusion here, is this iPad worth $2,000? Honestly, I'd like to see a little bit better hardware in it for that price range, and I'm hoping they fix that with the M5 iPad Pro. Don't get me wrong, you get a lot. You get a lot of internal storage here. You get that OLED display with the Nano Texture, which is absolutely the best display I've ever seen on a tablet or computer. This is also the 13-inch display, so I get the largest display in an iPad, which is really laptop sized. So I think if they give us some more RAM and a better chip, I think we're getting there on price point, especially the way I use it. I mean, this is the best 2-in-1 computer I've ever seen. If you want to learn more about the iPad Pro and how to use it in your day-to-day work, that's what my channel's all about, so you've come to the right place. I'll keep putting out content about the iPad Pro, but if you have any questions about it, feel free to leave a comment below. That's all I got for you. If you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.